Yo, hello there guys, I hope you're doing well. My name is Mikey. It's been a while. Now let's check out the trailer, part 2 for Dune.
This world is beyond cruelty. You've been fighting the Harkonnens for decades. My family's been fighting them for centuries. And they were massacred. Alongside my father.
Your father didn't believe in revenge. We believe in Fremen.
Let me fight beside you.
Reload!
He said that. I got that. Thanks.
I won't be fighting for him. I'm fighting for my people.
You young pup.
Do you believe in Paul?
There are signs. The prophet. Why is that a bad thing? Use it.
Because all my visions lead to horror.
Because you lose control.
Because I gain it. Johnny, do you believe in me?
Paul Atreides is still alive.
Deal with this prophet.
Show me who you are.
Your father. Was a weak man. Look who's back from the dead.
No deal must be done.
We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
I will love you as long as I breathe.
This prophecy is how they enslave us!
It's not a prophecy. It's a story.
I don't care what you believe. I believe. I am Paul Muad'Dib Atreides, Duke of Arrakis.
He who can destroy a thing has the real control of it.
Ah, heck. So, it's been a while since we've done a reaction video, and I wanted to just pop this on so that we could have a quick look at it and a really quick chat. Because I'm not going to go through the entire history of Dune like we did with the other trailers. But now that I've just watched that trailer, I would like to talk about every single thing that just happened in that trailer. Oh my god. So, like, this trailer is also kind of reflective of the first one. Obviously, we had, like, the Pink Floyd playing in the last one. It was like, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. It was full of colourful hope, and it was, like, injecting a load of energy into the narrative to make you come watch the film. But now that, like, we're a sold audience, and we've all seen the first movie, we have a completely different vibe and feeling coming across from this one. By the way, we are live on twitch.tv/Mikey Mega Mega. Thank you very much for joining me, Matty, Sockinajar, Kid Ludens, Ayatollah, Steampunk Witch, Kalidra, the wonderful illustrator, Mr. Marvelous. Guys, so let's just really quickly, I will try to keep this brief because you guys are super patient with me and my one weird passion, which is Dune. Dune, the Dune universe. Now,
This world is beyond cruelty.
so even just this, the world is beyond cruelty. Living in the desert. So basically, the Atreides became soft over time. They lived on the wonderful, lush world of Caladan, and despite being a rising power in the Landsraad and the Duke's household, the kind of overarching message is that you need hardship in your life to galvanize you. And we've all probably had this at some particular level with our own lives as we've grown up into adults, is that at some point in your life, there's an event which is just like not great. But the person you are coming out of that event is not the same person you are going in, and you've probably galvanized or refocused or re-understood what becomes important to you. And so living in hardship in the desert, the Fremen, essentially their natural culture is to live in a highly militarized state in these small like roving groups. So the desert is a dangerous place which trains you all the time, because one slip, one bad decision, and you will just die out in the sun and in the heat. But the main concern of Jessica in the Dune books is that if, before everything goes to hell, if their family is to genuinely survive on the planet of Arrakis, they have to learn to find the beauty there. They have to see the planet for more than just being an opponent. So if Paul is still thinking about it in this sense, when he's already joined the Sietches, it's like, it's not a super great sign. And this is one of those films where I'm hoping we're like, so basically, if you've read the books, Paul is not necessarily the good guy. He's just the protagonist. And what happens and how he bears that and what he does to those around him is fascinating. I think his name is Andrew Hodgson. I do not know if he's worked on the Dune Part 2 movie, but there's a 3D, I think he's actually moved over to concept, but there's a 3D hard surface modeler called Andrew Hodgson, who sometimes streams on Twitch, and he made a lot of the assets for the first Dune film. He's insane talent. So obviously we've got this, what looks like maybe a Harkonnen ship, bombing the absolute shit out of the side of a siege. But the chances are this isn't Harkonnen. This is probably still the Sardaukar. So obviously the Emperor lent a load of the Sardaukar, who are the warriors in whites, back when they were fighting. And the Sardaukar are basically trained on a prison planet where basically 1 in 3 people die within the first year, Salusa Secundus. And they are like the Emperor's like most hardcore fighters. And when they come to Arrakis and think that they're just helping with a quick extermination, they realize that the Fremen are a hidden power who can stand against them toe to toe. So the Sardaukar don't leave the planet. They stay, despite the Harkonnens no longer needing them, because they take it upon themselves to start a pogrom against the Fremen. And also, we know that stuff happens where Paul's wife is kind of stuck against these guys, away from Paul. So Kiani might be, you know, somewhere around here in this shot. The beast Raban, the former ruler of Arrakis, is sent back to squeeze them dry, but he is failing in his upkeep to the Baron and the Emperor because Paul's still alive and he's running the Fremen resistance. So by the time the Baron returns to Arrakis to demand answers, this might well be a scene where Raban is about to lose his head. A little echo of him beheading all of the Atreides in the first film. He's not a happy man. Look at him.
Been fighting the Harkonnens for decades.
So look at this. So this is the return. So look at Arrakis. So remember the shots of the first movie, and how bare and plain it is, and how it's a struggle to survive against the square shapes of the Atreides ships. And they come down. That's Harkonnen love out there, my lord. They're obliged to attend. And now that the Harkonnens have retaken Arrakis, all of their money and their wealth and all of their sick, slickly organic shapes start to come back into it. And even this is vaguely reminiscent of all that like Giga concept stuff from way back in the day for the Jodorowsky stuff. Was Giga on the Jodorowsky, or was Giga on the 80s one? No, Jodorowsky, right? Excuse me. I've got a little mosquito flying around here.
My family's been fighting them for centuries.
So here's more reflections of the pogrom kind of stuff. But this is Atreides armor from the first film. So this is like just a reflection of them burning the bodies after retaking Arrakis.
They were massacred alongside my father.
And look at this. Look at that image of the Duke. That's not a portrait. That is an icon. That is a religious icon piece. So we've already got the fact that his very human, although hyper-trained and hyper-advanced, his otherwise normal family that it has no like religious import is already being deified in the mediums that they're using on Arrakis. It's all pouring into, and like, Mate, separate church and state, otherwise you're going to have a hard time. And that is exactly not what is happening right now among the Fremen.
Your father didn't believe in revenge.
Now, I've said this before, but I've said this again. I like to have a little flirt and I like to be really friendly, but I respect relationships. I respect marriage. I don't cross the line. I am not a home wrecker. But if I was ever going to wreck one home, it would be if it was an opportunity to get with Rebecca Ferguson. I would do whatever it takes to rock her world. She is so gorgeous. It's insane.
We believe in Fremen.
Let me fight beside you.
So we've got Harkonnen spice collecting, and they're like blowing up the spotting ornithopters and stuff. But there's going to be a similar battle when they eventually reunite with Gurney.
Reload!
So it's interesting to see Paul and Kiani fighting together at the ground level for their hit and run attacks. It's essentially desert guerrilla warfare. Is Dune playing Final Fantasy 16? No, it's just got excellent music and an excellent score. I really like the first one, but boy, do I find Paul's actor and Zendaya annoying. Zendaya's characterization of Kiani comes with a certain forbearing cockiness in the first movie. I don't think it's necessarily out of place, but it's certainly a slightly new element to the character that I don't remember reading into. But I think the casting for both of them is excellent. Timothy Charlatan. Hey, Vivacious Alice, how you doing? By the way, if I'm missing anything, let me know. This might be Siege Tabar.
He said that.
I got that.
So, obviously, Paul has been accepted into that particular Fremen, is it Siege or tribe? That like small group that's run by Stilgar. And Stilgar is the ruler of a larger grouping, but now they actually have to embed themselves into that larger grouping. And there's things like the fact that Paul has killed Jamis. In the books, Jamis has a family that Paul then becomes a surrogate father for and responsible for by extension. So there's a lot of challenges there and a lot of trouble.
Thanks.
I won't be fighting for him. I'm fighting for my people.
So, this is interesting. Throughout this trailer, there's this conflict here where she appears to be aware that there's the prophecy lie that's being used to control the Fremen. And it looks like she's being very clear that your prophecy is your tool to control my people. And I will not fall in line with that. My people come first. And you either become a Fremen and have that ideal, or you stop using us. So it looks like there's like this conflict with her about that.
People.
Is it really you? This is one of my favourite scenes in the 1980s Dune, when Sir Patrick Stewart, Gurney Halleck, is like, because basically Gurney Halleck during the war escapes into the desert and becomes one of the leaders of the most successful mercenary band that's constantly ripping off the Harkonnens, producing its own spice to sell to the guild on the low key via the smuggling trade routes throughout the planet. And when he reunites with Gurney Halleck, he's still like bald on top, but he's got really long flowing hair like Peter Stringfellow off of the back. Paul, is it really you? Do your eyes deceive you, Gurney?
Pop.
Do you believe in Paul?
I'm assuming that's Jessica talking to Stilgar or Kiani.
There are signs.
Oh, it's Stilgar, isn't it? I wonder if they're banging in this one. You'll notice they've got the blue eyes now. They've got the eyes of Eobad, blue within blue. Yeah, the soundtrack is Hans Zimmer, right? The Hans Zimmer soundtrack to the last one, number one, is fantastic. Number two, there is I think it's called like the Dune Sketchbook. There's a B-side album with all of the alternative, more exploratory stuff that Hans worked with before he nailed it down into the Dune album. The first half of it is really good. The second half really goes somewhere and just becomes an eclectic mix of noise and stuff and guttural sounds. But it's definitely worth a listen. I think it's actually free on YouTube somewhere.
The prophet. Why is that?
That's all obvious. First riding the worm, still guy loves it.
A bad thing. Use it.
So Gurney is like, use the tools that you've got, because he doesn't have the golden path foreknowledge to fully appreciate its cosmic dangers.
Use it.
Because all my visions lead to horror.
So this is the bile of the newborn worms of Arrakis. The bile of a new... So when a worm is newly born, you can surround it by water in closed conditions and drown it, which obviously it's not used to in the desert. And when it drowns, it coughs up this blue bile, which is like spice bile, which is like this highly toxic stroke hallucinogenic drug, which is used by the Reverend Mothers, not just the Bene Gesserit sisters, but the actual like high tier Reverend Mothers of them, who have to ingest it and essentially control the chemical process of this liquid inside them to share memories. So here we've got Jessica as a Bene Gesserit in a ceremony with the Bene Gesserit mother, who has been essentially injected onto the planet previously. So this lady, as a Reverend Mother of Dune, holds all the genetic memories. I'm pretty sure she's a genetic memory holder, yeah. And she waits to pass that information over to Jessica because of their artificial prophecy that they keep in place in case any other Bene Gesserit come down. So there's a place and a process for Jessica by way of fake doctrine, which is all like the whole point of Dune this whole time is like, it looks like one of those white, like if this was the 90s, you'd be like, ooh, white messiah comes over to like some kind of Middle Eastern area and becomes their new ruler. But the whole point is that fakeness is an artificial doctrine that's put in place by the Bene Gesserit on all sorts of backwater worlds with a few repetitive key religious themes, so that if you land on one of these planets, you automatically know the main symbols, signs, and language to help protect you and help manipulate people. Bill Nash, lovely to see you. Great White Kitty, how the devil are you doing?
Because you lose control.
Because I gain it.
That's an interesting statement. This is probably the end fight between what I assume is Paul and Feyd-Rautha.
Johnny, do you believe in me?
The Emperor Shaddam IV of the known universe. My father. So this is Princess Irulan.
Paul Atreides is still alive.
This looks like, now this is amazing, but do you know those Met Galas where people have like amazing costumes and they hang out on the catwalk? This looks like a Met Gala, and the Met Gala theme is Venom. But what this is actually super vaguely visually reflective of is that in the future books, Paul's son, Leto II, basically does something both abominable and necessary, involving the proto version of a worm, the sand trout, sticking to his skin and covering his body like a second like sand skin. And it's kind of like almost visually described in the early stages as something like this. So it's fascinating that this visual kind of vibe falls in with the Emperor's daughter. Oh, look at him! Look at him!
Deal with this prophet.
So, it looks like we've got like a little bit of a side story thing where we see what's been going on with, you know, Paul's, you know, not quite announced arch nemesis, Feyd-Rautha. Lovely Feyd. So they have little, you know, tournaments and Roman gladiatorial kind of like murder sessions where they take the Atreides prisoners and they fight them. And in the Harkonnen way, you have the white blade and the black blade. The long black blade is for cutting, and the smaller white blade is for poison. And Feyd-Rautha is essentially being given information and ideas of how to strategize his position within the Harkonnen household by a Mentat. Remember, Paita died in the gas attack in the first one. So they have taken the Atreides Mentat, Feyd-Rautha, and forced him to work for them. So Feyd, as an ever loyal man, is giving them only ever pseudo-good advice to help keep the family of the Harkonnens at odds with each other, whilst the advice is still sounding good for anyone's individual needs. And Feyd puts the poison on the Longblade instead to send a message to the Baron that he's willing to do alternative things and become a dangerous member of their family. And you see it in terms of how he uses it when they're doing one of their public fight displays on Atreides prisoners. So this is him, probably just after he's done the kill, looking up towards the Baron. Look, it's got a head like a giant gobstopper. You could suck on that and there'd be loads of sugary sweets.
Show me who you...
So that, show me who you really were. Like, in the books, he shows the Baron. The Baron doesn't ask. The Baron is almost slightly disturbed by seeing Feyd's cunning nature. But it looks like he's super into it because he's essentially trying to find somebody who can be as nasty as himself to take over. Because the Beast Raban is, you know, he's a violent animal, but he's not a suitable heir to the Baron's desire.
You are.
And look at this. It's like a bull in an arena. You've got all these weird shaped, genetically destroyed Muto people. They're like the people when you've got like those bull shows in Italy or whatever, like running around with flags and stuff. And this bald guy is probably the Asian military agent who is in the meetings at the Duke's place in Arrakis in the first one. Also, horrible black mouths with horrible black teeth for Feyd-Rautha. I love it.
Your father.
That's when you've got a Christmas chocolate coin, but you leave it on the dashboard of your car in the heat.
Was a weak man.
Oh, he's trying to get under his skin.
Look who's back from the dead.
So, it doesn't happen in the books. Gurney Halleck never gets like a revenge match, like a one-on-one. There's no like Clegane Bowl for Gurney Halleck with the Beast Raban. But it kind of looks like maybe they actually go toe-to-toe or something.
I will do what must be done.
Look at that shot. That's like when you're just cleaning on your hands and knees and you look down at the weave on your rug.
We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
So Paul has a sense of rightness, and he's still battling the moral insecurities of using lies to manipulate the future of like an entire planet of people. But I do love the fact that one of his visions of him in the battle, where it closes up on his face, because obviously his visions always have an element of truth. Like he always had a vision of Jamis saying, "I will teach you the ways of the desert." And it is true, because Jamis teaches him that to survive in the desert, you have to kill. But it's never quite the same. So now Kiani has the same combat look and positioning that opens up onto her armor that was in Paul's vision in the first one.
I will love you as long as I breathe.
This prophecy is how they enslave.
So this is their big end fight. God, Jesus Christ. I will bend like a reed in the wind. Oh, he's grabbing the blade.
It's not a prophecy. It's a story.
I don't care what you believe.
So, oh man, my heart goes out to Stilgar. Stilgar buys into... Stilgar is a hard sell. He is a pragmatic man about keeping his people alive. And once he's turned to the prophecy, he buys into it with everything he's got. It doesn't matter if you fight on a lie, you still have to fight. It's almost heartbreaking. Does he become one of the Feyd-Rautha? So Paul has a number of close warriors later on that go with him. And in the film, they have like a red blood hand. I don't know if they have that in the books. But basically, the Feyd-Rautha are his most loyal life and death, like ride or die crew within the siege. And this is fascinating. We've got this giant sandworm doing some business in the background, and this figure doesn't quite look like a Fremen shape. But the one thing we haven't come across, even when we were talking about Jessica taking the water of life, the bile of the newborn worms of Arrakis, is that she does that while she's pregnant. Paul has a sister called Saint Alia of the Knife, and we haven't seen anything about that yet. And I'm wondering if this is her after they use the nukes, the atomics, on the wall to Arrakeen.
I am Paul Muad'Dib Atreides!
What is that? Oh, what is that? Is this... So this might be inside the Emperor's... what do you call a temporary tent? Like a palanquin? This might be on Arrakis underneath, like, the Emperor's tent or something. We've obviously got a knife fight going on, but it's not Gidi Prime because it's too warm in the colour scheme.
Duke of Arrakis!
Unless this is in a siege. Maybe this is underground. This might be in the caverns of one of the sieges.
Duke of Arrakis!
So this is them blowing up the Emperor's business, I reckon. Long live the fighters! Yo, there's an Atreides banner over there. Look at that bad boy. They still wave it. So, here we go. This is the Emperor's tent. So the Emperor is forced to come to Arrakis because all eyes turn on here. Paul has the ability to threaten to destroy spice production, and it forces everybody to take notice in the universe. He who can destroy a thing controls a thing.
He who can destroy a thing has the real control of it.
Ah, they misquoted it. So, look at this. After all the textures and colours and themes that we've seen through the whole thing, the Atreides, everything on Arrakis versus everything on Gidi Prime, you've got this third, entirely different aesthetic right up here. Look at this. So this is the Emperor's business. This is the top end of tech. This is pure wealth. The Baron, by the way, is wealthier than the Emperor right up until the last film. And now the Baron is like 60 years in debt on spice production to the Emperor's help. And this, again, this isn't, but this is indicative of the artwork describing no ships in the later books. So this is the Emperor's ship. This is the tent that folds out from underneath it. But it's got a similar shape to the Emperor's... what do you call it when somebody goes ahead of you and tells people about you? The Silver Surfer is that to the guy who eats for worlds. Oh my god, I can't remember anything. Herald, Bill Nash, thank you so much. When the Herald comes down in the Imperial ship in the last one, Galactus, he's a herald to Galactus. Yeah, thank you very much. I knew somebody would know that one. It has a similar design like this. Instead of this strip here, though, it's a bit more of a shape. But that's like, it's a reoccurring geometry. And here's the nukes going off. It is interdict. It is not allowed to use nukes in warfare on other people in the future. That has been banned. And if you do that, you get kicked out by the Emperor, you get kicked out by the other houses, and you essentially get forced to go out onto like another planet in the far galactic rim, or your particular planet, if you stay on it, becomes isolated and you're out of the business. So there's a very lenient thing where Paul does not use these nuclear bombs in a war-like attack. He uses these nuclear bombs to destroy a wall, which is more of a, more of a building project than an act of war. So instead of blowing anything up or blowing up any people, he allows the worms to access an otherwise safe area of the desert. He's real. He like leans on a technicality like super hard. Hiya! I'm very much looking forward to that. Okay, you've been super patient, guys. Thank you for waiting. I'm just going to roll this one more time, and then we're going to crack on and do some other things. Pavilion! That's what I wanted to say, Steve, that pavilion.
This world is beyond.
Believe it or not,
cruelty.
I've designed and built a pavilion before, back when I was in
We've been
uni.
fighting the Harkonnens for decades.
But I can't remember words anymore.
My family's been fighting them for centuries.
Hey, the butter. Hi,
They were
Hedgie.
massacred alongside my father.
Hey, Mr. MK. How you doing?
Didn't believe in revenge.
What is the lore behind not having firearms? For instance, what a handsome question. So basically, firearms and bullets and all that sort of things are super useful and we know how to use them. But the problem is, remember, that in the future, they develop those shields. Do you remember there's that scene with Gurney specifically about how the slow blade... Good. The slow blade penetrates the shield. But look down, young Paul. We'd have joined each other in death. Would you have really harmed me, Gurney? I'd have given you a good scar to remind you. So basically, personal shields for royalty and people like that, you can no longer assassinate and kill people with fast-moving projectiles because the shields bounce them off, and they only allow slow-moving particles like air to pass through so that you can breathe. Because of that, traditional gun technology essentially became useless. They have a lot of laser technology in the future, but really weirdly, based on the mechanics of it, if a laser or a laser gun hits an active shield, both the shield explode on a nearly nuclear level and the transmitting laser weapon also explodes on nearly nuclear level, killing both people at both ends. So using lasers in itself is still a dangerous thing. But oddly enough, once you come to the planet of Arrakis, wearing a shield, for some reason, sets off the worms. So people don't wear shields out in the desert down here, which means the Baron is able to use ancient military weaponry, i.e. shooting guns with bullets, which is by then like a historical anachronism. He's able to bring that stuff back as a tactical method of killing people off, in the books at least. But yeah, that's why combat is designed to be slow, so that you penetrate shields with slow, deadly movements. You're adorable, Grower Kitty. And yeah, the shields, it's a solid mix of technology and economics.
We believe in Fremen.
Oh yeah, gunfire, draw
I'm gonna
worms.
fight beside you.
Reload!
He said I got that.
So in the books, because of killing
I
Jamis,
won't be
Paul
fighting
takes
for
his
him.
children.
I'm fighting for my people.
So Paul has these two deadly little kids who become like his staunchest like bodyguards.
Young pup.
Do you believe in Paul?
There are signs.
The prophet. Why is that a bad thing? Use it.
Because all my visions lead to horror.
Yeah. Every skirmish fight in the open
Because
desert
you lose control.
is a ticking clock until a
Because I
worm
gain
comes.
it.
Yeah, that's the Emperor. That is the end fight.
Johnny, do you believe in me?
Paul Atreides.
Look at this. What is this fascinating thing? It's a mixture of go. There's a mix of go stones and then these marble pyramids. Oh, what kind of weird power play version is this?
Paul Atreides is still alive.
Interestingly, the Emperor doesn't have blue eyes. Oh, shit.
It's breathtaking.
I've managed to, I think, just go out and go right back in by accident. Oh, this is the first official trailer. So I've managed to just click my way by accident. There's a button on my mouse that goes back on a web browser. I actually tried to break my mouse so that the button didn't work,
Thanks.
but it keeps clicking from time to time.
I won't be fighting for him. I'm fighting for my people.
He's more of a cocaine guy. Space chess, yeah, it is. It's 3D chess, mate.
Young pup.
Do you believe in Paul?
There are signs.
The prophet. Why is that a bad thing? Use it.
Because all my visions lead to horror.
Because you lose control.
Sock in a jar. I would have had to have downloaded an extra Logitech app to actually turn those
Johnny,
buttons off in
do
the
you
end.
believe in me?
Wasn't worth it. Honestly, I could just lift the surface away with a screwdriver.
Paul Atreides is still alive.
Took like 20 seconds. I didn't need the wetware, I had the hardware.
Show me who you are.
Your father. Was a weak man.
Look who's back from the dead.
I will do what must be done.
We gave them something to hope for.
I like how the soundtrack has a load of familiar themes, and especially everyone's still got the same key
I
instruments.
will love you as long as
The
I breathe.
Harkonnens have those angry horn sounds, but all these songs feel like a step up to the tracks that are in the first one.
It's a story.
Like they're more emotive.
I believe.
Assuming any of this is a mix of Hans Zimmer's score.
Duke of Arrakis.
He who can destroy a thing has the real control of it.
Yo, I'm very excited. All right, guys, if you're watching over on YouTube, thank you very much. Everybody in my Twitch community has been so patient tolerating me just now. But if you've got any thoughts, ideas, feedbacks, things that I might have missed, or hopes about the upcoming Dune film, get your sweet selves into the comment section below, because I'm always ready to talk about it. Okay, guys, peace.